Hey guys, what's up? Ron Parks here, and welcome back to the channel. I want to say that I really appreciate everyone that has subscribed and come on board so far. I have gotten great feedback on the channel, and I'm working to give back to you some great advice and steps to become financially independent. I view this as a collaboration between you and me, and I'm really excited to continue to get feedback and ideas on what topics you want me to cover in the future. And by the way, I am working on adding locations to my video production so you don't get bored of seeing my home office every time we meet. So this is part 2 of my previous video, Testing of Your Financial Health. If you missed it, I'll leave a link below, so I would take a look at that before you start your financial health assessment. This video will cover 10 ways to raise your score and your financial health. I would recommend that you wait around to the end, as the tools and ideas I will discuss come together as a total package. Set aside at least an hour. Go through the financial assessment test and then make notes on each of these 10 suggestions that will get you moving on the road to financial freedom. So let's get started. Number 1, first things first, create a budget if you haven't already done so. A budget is really similar to going to see a therapist. And unless you're honest with your situation, then you are throwing good money against bad. Unless you do this in detail and honestly, you really won't get the sense of where you fit in and what steps you have to do to get on a better path. I will go over a quick, fast, and easy way to start a budget. You can follow along, or you can download the Excel spreadsheet, which I'll link below. Number 2, understand your income. Ask anyone off the top of their head to tell you how much they make a month. And although they probably won't tell you, internally they know. This is the difference thinking about income and expenses, as most people know their monthly income, but have less knowledge and appreciation of their full monthly expenses. Nevertheless, the point is to figure out your total expenses and subtract that from your total income for the month. Here are how the results should pan out. If you end up with a negative number, this means you spent more than you made. And some actions we'll talk about taking is to reduce your spending and expenses until the total reaches 0. But if you end up with a positive number, that's really good. It means you spent less than you made. And some of the actions we'll talk about is that you can increase your debt payments or increase your savings. So once you understand your expenses and income and have a firm understanding of the money coming in and out of your life, it's time to take some additional steps to best manage your money. So what is your income? It's salary and any bonuses you might get during the year, and also any payments you might get for some independent gigs. I would drop in your net pay, not your gross pay, as you only receive the net after-tax amount from your payroll check. And if you're an independent contractor or consultant, then mark down your whole gross income. Then ask yourself, what are my expenses? Include first the must-haves to sustain yourself. Number 3, understand your expenses. Writing all of your expenses down is the first step. I would then break down your expenses in 2 categories. The idea here is to have all your expenses either being fixed or variable. This will allow you to see the whole picture and know how to manage your expenses going forward. So let's talk about the definition of fixed expenses. So fixed expenses cost the same amount each month. These are bills that you cannot easily change and are usually paid on a regular basis, such as weekly, monthly, quarterly, or from year to year. It's much easier to budget for fixed expenses than it is to budget for variable expenses, because typical household fixed expenses are mortgages, rent, car payments, real estate taxes, insurance premiums, phone bill, cell phone bill. And while you theoretically could change your monthly mortgage payment by refinancing your loan, this is not an easy switch. And the same is true if you pay rent. You can change this expense by moving to a cheaper house or by getting a roommate. But these are major lifestyle changes. Also include your health insurance, car insurance, life insurance, homeowners insurance, renter's insurance. These are some examples of more fixed expenses. You would have to spend several hours researching alternate plans to change these monthly payment amounts. Make sure you go through your bank statement to account for all of your expenses, and don't forget to check all of your cash payments. Cash is not used that often anymore, as we're in an electronic payment society. But whenever you take money out of your ATM, you need to account for where it goes. So some of the benefits of saving money on your fixed expenses are that the major lesson here is that in spite of its name, fixed expenses, they're not necessarily set in stone. If you lose your job or aggressively want to start saving, you can devote a few hours to cutting your fixed expenses. And since fixed expenses typically represent the biggest chunk of your budget, the money you save in this category can be quite substantial. You won't feel as though you're curbing your lifestyle. Shopping around for a cheaper health insurance premium or a less expensive cellular phone plan will require a few hours of your time each year. And once you've found these low-cost options, you should automate these frugal choices into your monthly budget. So in other words, lowering your fixed monthly bills won't make you feel like you're being frugal because most people don't think about their monthly fixed costs. I think you'll feel the pinch much more when you make day-to-day decisions like, should I eat at this restaurant tonight or should I buy these jeans? That's why it's really important to understand what all your fixed expenses are. And now we move on to variable expenses. Well, these expenses represent the daily spending you do, like eating at restaurants, buying clothes, drinking at bars, going to Starbucks, and playing a round of golf with your buddies. These costs are not considered variable because they are discretionary. Rather, they're variable because the amount that you spend differs from month to month. While most variable costs represent discretionary spending, some of these variable costs represent necessities. Most families, for example, spend variable amounts of money on groceries each month. In addition, you're likely to spend different amounts each month on putting gas in your car and paying for your necessary car repairs and maintenance. So let's compare fixed expenses to variable expenses. Well, variable expenses are usually the first expenses that people try to cut when they need to start saving money. Unfortunately, variable expenses are also some of the toughest expenses to cut back on, because doing so requires a daily commitment to a life change or some frugal decision making. Trimming a fixed cost like your cell phone plan, insurance, or your cable package really requires only making a decision once and then living with that decision for the next several months or years. But trimming variable costs, on the other hand, requires actively making multiple decisions every day about whether or not you should buy a certain item or participate in specific events. This is a lifestyle issue, and this is why it's harder. So number 4, slash or remove your unnecessary expenses. You always hear the advice to stop buying Starbucks lattes to save money. It seems to be prevalent on these YouTube discussions. What people are trying to tell you is that you need to make some choices on what things you spend your money on, because at the end of the day, you want at a minimum your income to cover all of your expenses. It doesn't matter what you cut down on, but you should get yourself into a position where your cash inflows exceed your expenses. If you're having a hard time doing that, then I would recommend you start with a break-even budget. Here's an example. At the end of the month, if you brought in $4,000 and spent $4,000 during the month, then you have broken even. Of course, this only helps you save money if you have extra funds left over, but it is a first place to start. Remember, the idea is to learn how to manage your finances better by taking everything and every penny into account. So do some spring cleaning and slash expenses wherever you see an opportunity, and especially if it's something that doesn't affect your life to a great extent. When you do this, try and set some money aside every month for a rainy day fund, so you will have some place to go if you have an emergency expense. Once you reduce your expenses and add in more savings, then you can move on to other planning devices like debt management. Okay, number 5, use a tool or personal finance app. I will leave a link below for the top 7 budgeting apps for desktop, Android, and iOS. And I would also stay tuned for my video on the best apps for budgeting. Okay, number 6, consolidate all your debt. Debt, the dreaded word. Hardly anyone likes debt. And most people that need help managing money actually need help getting out of debt. Does that sound familiar? If you're like the majority of Americans, 80%, then you most likely have debt. And debt per se is not bad. It only depends on how you use and manage it. For most people, debt is really not good. If you are one of those people, then the first thing to do is to get it under control and work on getting rid of it. If you have credit card debts, student loans, and other debts, look to consolidate them and try to get the lowest interest rate possible. Again, it's all about taking the proper steps to control your money. There are options out there that allow you to combine several unsecured debts such as credit cards, personal loans, and even payday loans into one bill rather than paying them individually. And if you only have a single credit card debt and are on a tight budget, try paying at least the minimum amount as soon as you get the credit card bill. Then, if your finances permit it and you come across some extra money during the month, try to make the same payment a few weeks later. If you try keeping this payment cycle going, your debt will be paid off quicker. Okay, number 7, create an emergency fund. Emergency funds are an important part of a healthy personal finance plan. In almost all cases, you shouldn't touch or take money out of the fund. Rather, let it sit there earning interest. If you lose your job, or an unfortunate or unexpected expense arises, such as your car breaking down or a tree falling on your house, this is when you should tap into it. Okay, number 8, pay yourself first. Save and invest 5 to 15% of your annual income. Of course, this can be much harder than it sounds. If you're currently living from paycheck to paycheck without any real opportunity to get ahead, then I would start by creating a solid budget after tracking all of your monthly expenses. And once you figure out how you can control your variable spending, you can then redirect the money into first a savings account. This should be the first core account you set up. You won't earn much interest, and you need to make sure that you get an account that has no fees. And for many people, a good way to start saving regularly is to have a small amount transferred automatically from their paycheck to a savings account, or if they have an investment in a mutual fund, to that account. The idea is, if you don't see it, you really won't miss it. Number 9, invest in retirement accounts. You're not too young to start putting money away for retirement. Because of inflation, money invested today is worth much more than money invested in the future. And the sooner you start saving for retirement, the better off you will be in your retirement years. If your company has a 401k plan, make sure you enroll. You can contribute money pre-tax, and some employers even match your contribution, which adds to your retirement account. This is free money, so do it right away. There are 4 types of individual retirement accounts. A traditional IRA, you make contributions with money you may be able to deduct on your tax return, and any earnings that could potentially grow in that account are deferred until you withdraw them in your later years. Many retirees find themselves in a lower tax bracket than they were in pre-retirement. So this tax deferral means the money may be taxed at a lower rate when you take it out. And we also have a Roth IRA. In this, you make contributions with money that you've already paid taxes on. So your money may potentially grow tax-free with tax-free withdrawals in retirement. And a rollover IRA. If you had a retirement plan at work and you're no longer working at that company, you can take that money and roll it over into an individual or traditional IRA. Rollovers involve moving eligible assets from your employer-sponsored 401k plan into your individual IRA. And the 4th retirement plan is called the SEP IRA, a simplified employee pension plan. This IRA is a retirement savings plan mainly used for small businesses, as well as people like me that work for themselves or have a small business with a few employees. You can make tax-deductible contributions to the account annually based on your income. And SEP IRAs are advantageous because they are easy to set up, have low admin costs, and allow an employer like me to determine how much to contribute each year. SEP IRAs also have higher annual contribution limits than your standard IRA. And fundamentally, a SEP IRA can be considered a traditional IRA with the ability to receive employer contributions. Okay, number 10, review and understand your credit report. A credit report tells companies how good you are with managing your credit card and other debt. The scores you get will determine if you can get a car, home, or personal loan, and what interest rate you'll have to pay. It is a number between 350 and 850, and it serves as your scorecard or your grade, which factors in your present and past loans, credit cards, mortgages, and any other reported debts. The score rates how creditworthy you are, and the score has a direct impact on your future borrowing ability. So I would review and understand your credit report to assure that it has all your updated information and to identify any possible errors, because it's estimated that between 2 and 3% of the reports contain some errors that could affect your overall score. If you carry out these 10 steps, then I am confident you'll be on the best track to become financially secure and independent. At least for me, it's a great feeling to master your finances. If you enjoyed this video, it will really help me immensely if you can smash the like button and subscribe. And until next time.